I'm gonna hold your hand so tight when I say this. You do not have an income problem, you have a spending problem. You can make all the money in the world. Matter of fact, when I was making the most money I ever made in my life, going from like 40K a year to 120, 130K a year, I was the most broke I had ever been, because I made every wrong mistake you could ever make when you start making money, and that has inflated my lifestyle. I got a brand new car, I got a really nice apartment that was way more than I could afford, but again, I justified it. I gaslit the fuck out of myself. Like, that's what I did. I gaslit myself because I was like, oh, I can afford it, I'm making money. Like, yeah, technically monthly payment wise, my bills versus my income was good. However, when you factor in debt, credit card payments, student loans, personal loans, collections, hello, credit scores, I'm sorry, but you can't afford it. If you're someone who, you know, you make good money and you're like, I just need to make more money and then I'll be in a better position, don't gaslight yourself. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't do it. You gotta fix your spending habits. You gotta start tracking your expenses. Like, don't just be buying whatever you can because you make money. No, you don't. But don't worry. If you're like, how am I supposed to stop spending when every other video I see, every other influencer I follow wants me to spend money? That's what I'm here for. I encourage good spending habits. Budgeting. We budget over here. Invest in quality items. Like, don't get me wrong. We invest. We have expenses. We have good skincare, good clothes, all that good stuff. But God forbid, are we gonna be overspending just to get the latest butter yellow top? Be so for real, you don't need it. Pay off your credit cards and have a good day.
I know that I have bad spending habits, but the problem is that I don't want to fix the spending habits. I want to be able to afford them. And in the meantime, I'll just be mostly ignoring my bank account because what I don't know cannot hurt me.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get through this without absolutely bawling my eyes out. It's me crying on the internet again. Okay, so I just want to put out there, like, if you are undiagnosed ADHD or you are neurospicy and you obviously need your dopamine fixes, please don't fucking spend your money. Do not go and find dopamine fixes in clothes and spending your money. It feels really good at the time, but fuck, this is the state you get yourself into. Send help. I'm learning the hard way.
You keep overspending, you hate it, and you're desperate to change it, but you can't figure out why. Let's talk. The most important place to start is remembering that every single thing that we do is an attempt to keep us safe. We are driven almost entirely from our subconscious, which is formed between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. So the person driving the ship is like a 4-year-old half the time, 99% of the time. And that part of you is always seeking safety, but they have the misguided tools of a perhaps traumatized 4-year-old. This is the important place to start because all the experiences that we have, all the things that we do where we're like, oh, why won't this stop, are rooted in some kind of learned behavior where we're trying to keep ourselves safe with the limited resources that the previously traumatized version of you had available to them at the time. And then we move forward in the world and we replicate these experiences because that traumatized part of you is seeking to be witnessed and rescued by you. The problem is we see these patterns like overspending and we immediately judge ourselves, get mad at ourselves, shame ourselves, which is probably what traumatized you experienced in the first place. So unfortunately, adult you is replicating the very same harm that little kid you experienced and then is still looping on. This is why a better budget isn't solving the problem, because it's not about a budget in the first place. It's about a little tiny part of you who has very tender and important needs, and we have not yet been resourced to go and understand and uncover and sit with what it is that they actually need. And big you is angry because you would just like to stop spending all your money at fucking Target. But if it were simple to stop overspending, you would have done it by now. There's some deeper need that's being expressed through this habit, and the only way it's going to change is if you find a way to sit compassionately with what is the greater need of this tender, wounded part of you. How can we love them, meet that need, integrate that part, therefore rewiring your subconscious, and then poof, the behavior just floats away. You don't need it anymore. It's only showing up because it's trying to point you back to this deeper need that you totally can go and rewire. You are not trapped, but perhaps you need the tools and the guide and the pathway in to changing the behavior. If this is speaking to you and you're ready for change, follow, sign up for my course, sign up for my free workshop. Let's get some new systems of care in place for you. Yeah? Because you deserve it, my friend. You fucking deserve it.
Joking around about having a shopping addiction isn't normal. Having multiple online orders on their way to you at all times isn't normal. Hiding or lying about your purchases to your partner isn't normal. A recycling bin always full of deconstructed boxes and packaging and shopping bags isn't normal. Never repeating the same outfit isn't normal. None of these things are normal, but you are not alone. I'm Hannah. I'm a former broke shopaholic who dealt with all of these things, and I'm here to help you balance healthy spending habits with your love of getting dressed. If you want more tips to quit compulsive shopping, save this video to keep underconsumption content in your algorithm.
This is the one thing that you're probably not doing, but has the potential to totally transform your finances and your spending habits. I'm Paige, the founder of Overcoming Overspending, which is an online community where I help women stop impulse shopping and overspending. Something that we are commonly told to do with our spending is to track your spending, which yes, that is important, but have you ever tracked what you're not spending? I know this sounds a little weird, but one exercise that I always take the women in my community through is to start tracking what you're not spending. The easiest way to do that is through something that I actually call an urge jar. Here is my urge jar. You can see these are tiny, like little dollar bills. I think they're actually for like a dollhouse or something. They're super tiny and really cute, but this is essentially a visual representation to me of all the money that I haven't spent, that if I wasn't going through this exercise, I probably would have spent. So here's how your urge jar is going to work. You just need to find 100 little trinkets. You do not need to get these cute little tiny dollar bills. I just use them because they make me happy. Don't go out and spend more money for this. Just find something around your house that you already have 100 of. You're gonna need 2 jars or containers just like this. Every single time that you resist the urge to splurge, whether it's in person or maybe it's online, you are going to take one of your tiny little trinkets and move it from one to the other. And yes, you are going to do this 100 times. Every single time that you do this, you're actually going to log it. You're going to log the money that you would have spent, but you didn't spend. This could be anything from a $5 latte to a $1 trinket that you saw in the Target dollar section to a $200 new pair of shoes that in the past you probably would have bought, but you didn't this time. After doing that 100 times, you're going to add all this up. And I promise you, you are going to shock yourself with all of the money that you would have spent, but you didn't. I even have some clients that as they're going through this exercise, every 10 urges, they'll add that up and they will actually take that amount of money and they will transfer it into a savings account. So when they get to the end of this exercise, they actually have all of that money that they would have spent just sitting somewhere else. And then what I challenge them to do is to do something meaningful with that money that in the past just would have gotten spent on junk and clutter. Some of them put it towards debt. Some of them just keep it to build up their savings. I've had a client who has been able to take her family on a dream vacation doing her 100 urges before. But I think it's really critical and life-changing to your finances to pay attention to the value that we get from not spending money. Our focus is typically usually on what we are spending and what we are buying and what's leaving our bank account. But there's a tremendous amount of value in directing your attention to the money that you're not spending impulsively or recklessly or on just things that aren't going to bring a lot of value into your life and showing yourself the value of what else that money could do for you. So I hope that you try this. Let me know if you do. And if you're needing more help with your spending habits, this is definitely the place to be. So start by giving me a follow. Also go to my profile. All of my free resources are there. My podcast, a link to a free masterclass all about why you impulse shop and how to stop. It's a great place to get started on this journey.
This is just a PSA. If you feel like you're spending a little too much money right now, just remember you could be spending money on a child. So get that $7 latte and enjoy it while it lasts.
Is stop spending your dang money. Stop spending money. My TikTok is infested right now with people getting on here and talking about how they're in so much debt and cost of living is too high and on and on and on and on. And I understand all that cost of living is high, but it doesn't change the fact that your spending habits are ridiculous. Average American has an upwards of like almost $7,000 in credit card debt. Why? If you don't have the money to pay for it now, then don't buy it. I'm not anti-credit card. I have 3 credit cards. Almost all our purchases go on credit cards, but we have the cash to pay that off at the end of every month. I like Dave Ramsey, but I'm not a hardcore Dave Ramsey guy where he said, no, credit cards have a plastectomy because you shouldn't be using credit cards at all. I don't agree with that. There are a ton of points and all that stuff that you can take advantage, but you have to be super disciplined with it, and you can't let it get overboard because it is definitely a slippery slope. And I do agree with the fact that he says you probably do spend a little more using credit cards. As long as you're disciplined, then I don't see a problem with credit cards. But why are you buying things that you can't afford now? A lot of this boils down to is stuff that you want to get to impress other people. I think I read the other day the average millionaire's vehicle is like $42,000. Not driving anything fancy. Yeah, it's a nice car, but they're not driving $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 vehicles. Sorry, but I'm gonna say it. I don't believe for 1 second that people can't make enough money to live nowadays. I wanna hear, oh, you live in the Midwest. You don't understand how expensive it is on the West Coast. No, I do. I lived in Hawaii in 2023. I understand how expensive cost of living can be. There are more ways to make money now than there has been ever in history. Do anything. The service industry is booming. Do something on the side. When you get home from work, go clean gutters, go mow the lawn like I posted about. Some lady was making $1,000 a week doing people's laundry for them. There's like, you can do anything, just service, and you're gonna make extra money. I don't know if she's still doing it, but my friend Brandy was like buying and reselling stuff to pay off all of her debt, and she's been tracking it on here, so I'll tag. Find you a side hustle for some supplemental income. If that doesn't work, sorry, find a new job. But the big thing is stop spending your dang money.
Quick reminder that if you are consistently hitting all of your financial goals, please spend your money on yourself. This is something that I still struggle with to this day, and somebody commented on a recent video that I did where I was trying to do like a budget day in DC, and I ended up spending like $50, and they commented and they were like, well, what would you have done differently? And I had to sit and think, and I was like, not a goddamn thing. For me, I think it's hard because I started out my financial journey needing to be very restrictive because I was correcting bad spending habits that I had. Now I do consistently hit my savings and retirement goals, so I shouldn't feel so guilty when I go out and I spend a little bit more money than I was expecting. Don't get me wrong though. I definitely still love to do low spend and no spend challenges every now and then, not really for the financial gain, but mostly because I like to reinforce the idea that I do not need to be spending money all the time to be having a good time in life. But as long as you don't make overspending a habit and you're hitting your goals, there shouldn't be any guilt associated with splurging on yourself every now and then. So this is me giving you permission to spend money on yourself, okay? Life is too short. Just please make sure you're making good financial choices.
One thing that helped me break my overspending habit for good was differentiating the things that I see versus the things that I actually want. Let me explain. The things that you see is when you go in stores like Target or Home Goods or TJ Maxx, and you're like, ooh, that looks cool. Never even thought about the thing before, but you see it and it's like, oh yeah, I automatically need that, or I automatically want that. No, it's just something that you literally see versus things that you want. So for example, I got this mirror right here. Wanted it for a very long time. It was a lot of money from Crate and Barrel, and I was like, I am going to get that mirror, and so I'm going to prioritize spending on this mirror because I really want it over things that I just see in the store that I would be able to put that same money towards this mirror instead. And so getting in the habit of really catching yourself when you want things that you see versus the things that you really truly want, and those things lasting, you being satisfied with those purchases for a long time and not forgetting about it the next day or the next week because you didn't really want it in the first place, you just saw it, will help you so much with an overspending habit.
If you want to stop shopping so much, you need this one thing. I used to shop away my 6-figure salary on clothes. I had credit card debt, barely any savings, and a closet full of things I never wore. I tried so many times to stop spending so much on clothes, but nothing ever worked until I found something I wanted more. If there's one thing you take from this video, it's this. We only do what we want to do. It sounds stupidly simple, but you have to find something that you want more than your dream wardrobe. Imagine you're 80 years old looking back on your life. What are you the most proud of? What are you the most grateful for? For most people, it's something like their relationship, their kids, their home, the business they built, or the traveling they did. Now, all of a sudden, you have this vision for your life. So are your spending habits getting you closer to that vision or further away from it? A bigger why is the most important thing you need to start tackling your shopping addiction and stay on track.
This tweet perfectly captures why so many people are psychologically stuck with their money, and I'm gonna break down why. So this mindset is actually incredibly common. Rather than adapting our lifestyle to match our resources, we often dream of resources expanding to match our lifestyle. And it's a kind of backwards way of thinking that does feel logical in the moment. And the reason why it feels logical is we are hardwired to normalize our current spending habits, no matter how unsustainable they are. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Whatever lifestyle we're currently living kind of becomes the baseline, and then cutting back feels like a painful loss rather than something we actually need to do. There's also status anxiety at play. We want our spending to reflect our social value. So a lot of times we'll spend to kind of keep up with people. And I think social media has exacerbated this feeling like we need to keep spending money to make sure we're perceived in a certain way. And, when we see that we need to kind of cut back on our spending, that can even trigger like a primal fear that we need to cut back, we're going to lose our social standing. So that can be scary to some people. However, the reality check is the income required to afford unchecked spending habits is almost theoretical. Like the math simply does not work. The average American carries almost $7,000 of credit card debt precisely because of this mindset. And what's particularly dangerous about this mindset is that it robs you of agency. I want to afford my spending habits. That puts control outside yourself. Like you're waiting for external circumstances to change rather than taking action on something that you can control now. So the reframe that you should take with this statement is instead think, I want to align my spending with what truly matters to me. And that's not about deprivation, that's about intentionality. And people that typically are able to successfully build wealth aren't necessarily earning more, though that's a part of it. They're often making conscious choices about where their money goes. Eliminating spending that doesn't bring any real value to their lives, and then focusing on resources that genuinely improves their lives. And the ultimate financial freedom here isn't being able to buy anything, right? It's being thoughtful about what you choose to buy and having the freedom to make financial choices. And if you're interested in exploring the psychology behind our financial choices and developing a healthier relationship with money, you should subscribe to my newsletter, Your Brain on Money. I break down the hidden forces driving our financial behaviors and how to harness them for better outcomes. And the link is in my bio.
As a recovering super spender, here are some things that I do that help keep overspending and impulse buys under control. First and foremost, I have to protect me from myself, which means I do not use credit cards for daily purchases. I don't keep my credit cards in my normal wallet. I don't keep them saved in my Apple Wallet because I don't want to give myself access to a way that would allow me to overspend. My credit cards are just for bills and any kind of expense that I can predict, see from a distance, save for, and then immediately pay off once it happens. This will never stop being my number one tip for quitting overspending. Now, the next thing I did that helped to stop overspending and impulse buys was I practiced saying no to myself. I don't really have a lot of bad habits. I've always just kind of done what I was supposed to do, done what I was told to do. And so I did not have practice saying no to myself because I felt like, I deserve a little treat. I deserve things here and there. Only things here and there became things like daily, twice daily, and then it just kind of gets out of hand. So I realized, I need to practice wanting something and then saying no, which I guess is another way of saying I was practicing self-control. But on a related note, I stopped hyping up things that I knew I did not need and would not change my life. If something is being marketed as a must-have, you have to have this, your life will never be the same, so on and so forth, take a minute. Maybe it is useful. Maybe it's a useful tool. Maybe it will make your daily life easier. Wait till you have money set aside because even though it exists now, it will exist, in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month. If it's truly a life-changing thing, it will be around by the time you have money saved up for it. If it's not actually a life-changing thing, finally, the last thing that I did that was a complete game changer for me when it came to preventing overspending was I keep my being alive money and my everything else money completely separate. My being alive money is money that I'm allowed to use for food and transportation specifically. And weekly, I give myself $150 for that. Now, my everything else money is for like dinners, going out with friends, shopping. Literally everything else is over here, which means if I have $100 left for the week and like, you know, I see a dress that I want, maybe I have, you know, Saturday and Sunday left, but it's Friday. Like, how much money could I need of that 100 to be alive Saturday and Sunday? Doesn't matter. I can't use my being alive money for things that I just want, because that, without fail, causes my whole money structure to just crumble. Because if I don't have my being alive money and I don't have any other reserves that I can tap into, I'm basically broke until I either get paid or, you know, I get to replenish my weekly allowance. So give yourself a weekly allowance that is your being alive money, okay? Keep it separate from your fun money. Everything that would require you to use being alive money for a want is a no. When you boil it down, all of these things are ways to kind of supplement self-control, because I know that for me, I hate it when I see things that are like, why don't you just have self-control? That's amazing advice. Unfortunately, my brain doesn't recognize that as like a feasible course of action, because I could go, yeah, I could have self-control, but why would I want to do that? It doesn't give me any serotonin. So these are just like ways to sidestep that issue or combat it a little more.
I'm going to hold your hand when I tell you this. You do not need any more fast food. You got a problem. You do not need any more retail therapy. You need to focus on addressing the problems you have, getting a budget together, and sticking to that budget.
I spent $3,155.50 shopping in 2024, and for the first time in a while, I can confidently say I don't regret any of those purchases. A year ago, I made a video about how 2024 was the year I was going to start thinking through purchases before I made them, and that totally changed my spending habits and something that I'm going to continue through this year. I decided that if I thought I wanted something, I would make myself sit with it for a while. I was shocked how much I was able to save this year by simply not seeing something and buying it. We live in a super consumeristic, I don't know if that's a word, culture where overconsumption is really normalized. In this past year, I tried to stray away from that a little bit, and because of that, I ended the year with zero regrets when it came to my spending. Of that $3,155.50, $2,062.27 was spent on clothes, shoes, accessories, or bags. I kind of like group those all in together. In years past, clothing has definitely been the area in which I carry the most regret. I had a habit that I think a lot of us do, in that I saw something was trending and immediately I wanted it. Taking a step back and thinking, is this actually going to benefit me in any way? Is it something I actually like? I was able to hold off and maybe not purchase it at the end of the day. Biggest advice for 2025 is don't focus on overconsumption, focus on what you need and what you really want. If you still want it in a month, then get it.
I grew up poor, and I used to have like poor people tendencies because of like the scarcity mindset. But one of the things that I didn't know that I was doing that was like a sign that I was poor was knowing the price of food, like off the top of my head. It was actually a surprise to know that a lot of people my age don't know the price or the prices of like certain items like off the top of their head. There's actually people out there that think $5 for a carton of eggs is a fair deal.
Convenience is keeping you poor. Let me tell you a quick story. So my grandma, when she wanted to buy something, if she didn't have the cash, she literally had to drive to the bank, get money from the bank, then drive to the store, pick out the item she wanted, and then drive back. That entire amount of time going into purchasing the item is an investment. That is what we're missing. And our brains are pretty weak when it comes to willpower. Willpower runs out. So if we are constantly being bombarded with advertisements and influencers telling us to purchase things, it is no wonder why people overspend, and therefore that impacts their finances, and it creates this cycle of paycheck to paycheck or debt. Here are my 3 tips that you can implement today to slow down your desire to purchase more things. Number one, implement some form of 24 to 72 hour rule. If you are still thinking about that item 24 to 72 hours from now, then you can purchase it. The buy now instantly mentality is destroying your bank account. Number two, save up for the item strategically. If there is an item that you want to purchase, let's say a $500 bag, save up for that bag and put time and money into that bag, into saving for the bag. Don't just purchase it on credit card and pay it off later. That's how you accumulate debt. If you want that bag that badly, sacrifice for the next few months and save for that $500. Third is to only use cash. Be like our grandma's generation, where you did see the cash physically leave your hand. There is something psychological about that, and that's why convenience is making you poor, is because all of this stuff that's being thrown at you, the influencers, the advertisements, the digital money, it is all meant so that you spend all of your money. Don't do it.